Good day, gentlemen and gentlewomen, it's Izen here, and today we have some further changes and planned tuning from Blizzard, which very transparently went out to comment about the situation they were thinking about when planning some changes for some of the classes in this game, and now we even have some of the first effects of the Community Council, because Blizzard answered to a couple of questions posed by the new council members, and some of the changes that are planned to go live in 9.2, and a couple of them are even going to be hotfixes already being planned to be introduced in-game. So let's start as usual with the more important one, which is class balance. Balance tuning, changes to classes and specs. That's what is going to always draw more interest from people whenever their spec gets changed somehow. So the changes for today, we are starting with Death Knight, perhaps alphabetically. So Blizzard was pointing out a few days back that they were planning some changes, but they weren't giving out too many details, just the general ideas they had in mind. So now instead they actually broadcasted to us what are their intended changes. The first change goes to Unholy. The previously released tier set was that every 5 glowing shadows or score strikes you were going to cast Soul Reaper for free on the target, and Soul Reaper would grant your pet 20% attack speed for 10 seconds. The new iteration is that every 5 score strikes or glowing shadows you are still going to cast Soul Reaper on your target, but instead you are going to summon a ghoul for 12 seconds, which pretty much just cooks the older 4-piece set bonus into the 2-piece, because the older 4-piece set bonus was that whenever Soul Reaper's secondary effect, so the execute part of Soul Reaper, would trigger, you would summon a ghoul from your army of the dead. Instead, now the 4-piece set bonus is being planned to turn into Soul Reaper causes your pet to deal 20% increased damage. If Soul Reaper's secondary effect is triggered, all of your pets are going to gain 20% increased damage. Their point of view is that it was clear that having an entire bonus inactive unless you were in execute phase was a bridge too far and could lead to some major tuning issues for DK. This change to the set 6 to retain that goal while also emphasizing the undead commander fantasy of Unholy, so that now this 2-piece is always going to allow you to summon a ghoul for 12 seconds whenever you cast 5 Scourge Strikes. The main complaint from the player base is that perhaps once the sims are out, once the numbers will be crunched on this, it might promote a degenerate playstyle where Unholy DKs will just keep spamming Scourge Strikes even when there is no bursting to happen, simply because it's too valuable to get your goal to spawn every 5 Scourge Strikes. So perhaps that might be an issue, but it definitely looks like a better version than the original tier set for Unholy. Not to mention that Blizzard makes sure to specify that yes, 20% more damage to all of your pets means all of your active pets. From your ghoul to your gargoyles to your army of the dead, every type of pet is going to get the damage increase. They are also then planning to change the Frost Death Knight 2-piece set. So the 4-piece is going to stay in place, which is that consuming killing machine fires a glacial advance through your target, but the 2-piece is what gets changed. Previously, Remorseless Winter now gains 8% critical strike when active. You know, this was one of the boring type of sets. It was going to give you a buff to some of your abilities, in this case Remorseless Winter, but it was just 8% more crit chance on you, which is, you know, it's okay because it's a buff, but it's not very exciting, right? So the changed 2-piece planned for Frost is that gaining a rune has a 15% chance to grant Killing Machine, and then consuming Killing Machine increases your strength by 2% for 6 seconds. They point out that the above bonus seeks to accomplish the previous one's goal of generating more Killing Machine procs for the 4-piece, but in a way that feels a little bit more in your hands. Being able to gain runes means that, you know, both talents and passives like Murderous Efficiency and Runic Empowerment, but also whenever a rune refreshes naturally. And with the Strength Stacker on top, hitting multiple Killing Machines within a moderate duration is also going to give you more value to your procs, particularly for obliteration builds. You know, this turns what you were already going to do with the 2-piece, with the older 2-piece, which is giving you more crit chance. So more crit chance means more chances of proccing Killing Machine, with a different 2-piece set bonus, which gives you more chances to proc Killing Machine, but, you know, in a more diverse, in a more varied way based on rune generation. So it's definitely more interesting and more dynamic at the very least. So, so far, these are the planned changes for DKs. As they pointed out, for Blood, there is nothing to share at the moment. They are still trying to find the middle ground for solo tanking and multi-target tanking for the bonus, because the bonus is quite AoE heavy with the amount of parries you can generate from Dancing Rune Weapon. Of course, the more targets are smacking you, the more value it's going to get, whereas if it's on single target, it's not going to have as much value. So they are still thinking about the way to make it worth for single target, but for the moment there is nothing to share with the player base. Then we move on to another one of the classes being looked at, which is Rogue. So before this, Assassination got its planned change. It wasn't complete at the time. Previously, the 2-piece set bonus was that Shiv's debuff would cause your bleeds to gain 25% crit chance for 9 seconds. This was changed tentatively before, making it so that Shiv's debuff would cause all of your bleeds to gain 100% crit chance on all targets for 9 seconds. But now they have thought about buffing it even more, because now Shiv is going to cause enemies within 15 yards to take 100% increased damage from your poisons and bleeds. So they are going away with the crit chance increase, and they are going away with just focusing on your bleeds. They are adding poisons to the buff as well. This was mostly done so that critical chance is going to lose a little bit of value, because of course if your Shiv makes you have 100% crit chance, if you're a rogue who already has 30% crit chance, that 30% crit chance is wasted for those 9 seconds, because you already have guaranteed crit. So turning crit chance to increased damage is not going to mean that crit is going to be devalued for that time. So this is also going to be a little bit better for AoE situations. It's not going to be as tremendously single target focused as it was before, which is always a nice good help for Assassination. Assassination has quite some troubles to just increase their AoE damage in any way. This 2-piece is going to work quite well in that regard. Now, the other change for Rogue is to Outlaw. They're not touching subtlety at the moment after the changes they put. They still have about 75 bugs to fix for subtlety, so they're not thinking about modifying the set in any way for the moment, but Outlaw is going to be changed. So the previous 4-piece set bonus for Outlaw was that Pistol Shot has a 50% chance to load a hidden bullet from your sleeves, up to a maximum of 6 times. After you load 6 bullets, Between the Eyes has its cooldown reset and costs no energy. So the main change from this is that Pistol Shot still has a 50% chance to load a hidden bullet. It still stacks up to 6 times, and still after loading 6 bullets, your next pistol shot also fires a Between the Eyes as though 6 combo points were spent. So clearly, as they point out themselves, the goal here is to avoid some of the awkwardness that can come from the previous iterations, such as the cooldown refreshing right as Between the Eyes is coming off cooldown anyways, so it would have been wasted, and refreshing the cooldown would have still required the rogue to have the combo points needed to use Between the Eyes. Instead, with this new version, you can just choose whenever you want to use your extra cast of Between the Eyes whenever you pistol shot, and you're gonna gain a cast with 6 combo points for free. So it's going to be much easier and much more smooth on your rotation. It's not going to have all of this awkwardness tied to the 4-piece set bonus. It's making it much more clean to use as a Outlaw Rogue. So as far as Death Knight and Rogue are concerned, the changes are mostly positive. The changes to Unholy and Frost are both good, and not just a buff in the terms of power, but also in the way they smoothen out the rotation. Same goes for Assassination, a well-needed buff in AoE as well as Outlaw, giving it a much cleaner rotational playstyle. And now we go on to the bad news. The bad news are the changes for Demon Hunters, because the last one of the classes that is being touched by the changes to the tier sets is going to be both Havoc and Vengeance. Havoc is is receiving some quite disturbing feedback, unfortunately. They are saying, Blizzard is saying, that we have heard your feedback, that you would like more information about when your empowered blade dance will arrive, as you want to plan around that gameplay. We are looking to add a means of understanding when your blade dance is empowered in a future build, so that you will have more information about when your big moment is approaching. So, to non-Demon Hunter players, what are they talking about? They are talking about the tier set bonus, which says that every 5th blade dance or death sweep instantly refunds its own cooldown and cost. Casting this empowered blade dance or death sweep has a 15% chance to instantly refund its own cooldown and cost. So this kind of looping mechanic around casting multiple blade dances in a row. So basically what Blizzard is saying in the feedback received is that, oh, we are planning to give you a weak aura as part of the 4-piece. We are planning to give you a reminder of when your 5th blade dance is arriving, which is a completely meaningless addition. It's not really a buff. You can easily fix that with, as I pointed out, a weak aura or any other type of add-on that lets you keep track of your stacks. But the main concern here for Demon Hunter players is that this is bad because Demon Hunter players don't want to play with blade dance as a whole. This was a problem of Blizzard's own creation, because Blizzard has buffed Venthyr, Demon Hunter, quite a lot over time. They kept buffing Agony Gaze, the legendary, working with Sinful Brand, so that now Venthyr is the best performing single target spec for Demon Hunter. And guess what Venthyr does? Venthyr doesn't even want to cast Blade Dance. That's how bad Blade Dance is. And what makes this even worse is that the absolute best combination of double legendary coming in 9.2 for Demon Hunter is going to be Agony Gaze together with Dark Glare Boon, because as you can see here, the synergy is quite telling. Agony Gaze is going to extend the duration of Sinful Brand whenever you I-beam, and Dark Glare Boon is going to give you a chance to reset I-beam's cooldown, which means you can cast it more, which means you can extend the duration of Sinful Brand more. So this single target looping gameplay around extending Sinful Brand as much as possible with as many I-beam casts as possible, using talents as well that allow you to reduce the cooldown of I-beam, it makes it worthless to cast Blade Dance. So having this 2-piece and 4-piece bonus focus around Blade Dance seems like a waste for many Demon Hunters. Of course, this might have been Blizzard's plan from the get-go. Hey guys, we kind of put Blade Dance in a shit spot for Demon Hunters, how do we make it good again? So they probably thought about making an entire tier set centered around Blade Dance. The problem is that at the moment, this is still too weak. A Venthyr Demon Hunter with no tier set is still going to be doing more damage than another Demon Hunter focusing around Blade Dance with the tier set. Night Fae, for example, is still going to be outdamaged by Venthyr. So for the moment, this is creating some issues in the Demon Hunter community due to how weak this is going to work for your single target build. Of course, it's going to have more power. It's going to plan out a little bit better when you're planning your AoE builds, but it's still not very good overall for Havoc. Now, what is also not very good, but this is much more anticipated, is the nerf that Vengeance has received. So what happened is that Vengeance had these 2 pieces combining together from the tier set. The 2-piece set bonus made your damage dealt by Immolation Aura has a 10% chance to generate a Lesser Soul Fragment, and then the 4-piece, consuming a Lesser Soul Fragment, has a 100% chance to grant you 2 seconds of Immolation Aura, or extend an existing Immolation Aura. Basically, it gave you permanent Immolation Aura, allowing you to consume and generate a ton of soul fragments. The problem with this set bonus is that likely Blizzard did not think around something like this one existing for Vengeance, Growing Inferno. You know, this conduit exists with the idea in mind that eventually Immolation Aura is going to end. Eventually is going to expire and you have to wait a few more seconds to cast it again, so this bonus is going to reset. Well, with the 2-piece and the 4-piece set bonus, this thing is not going to stop. and it's not going to reset, and it's going to continue stack. In Mythic Plus, with some pretty good degenerate gameplay, if you keep pulling fast enough, this is never going to stop. It's going to continue stacking forever, and it becomes kind of a big problem. Not to mention that your massive amount of soul fragment generation because of the set bonus is also going to empower Soul Furnace as well, giving you even more damage to your soul cleave. So, of course, they had to nerf it. We are considering a couple of different options in a future build to address the problem. Number one, reducing the immolation aura uptime granted when consuming a fragment, because otherwise it's gonna be just lasting too long. And number two, changing the bonus to instead reduce the remaining cooldown of Immolation Aura, Fell Devastation and Fiery Brand upon fragment consumption, offering you more agency about when you choose to devastate your foes. So it's kind of a nerf to the current playstyle because it was way too strong, but at the same time it's kind of a buff. Because sure, you weren't gonna get this going live, it was gonna get nerfed, but at least it gets nerfed in an inventive way, because now you might also start getting CDR to your Fell Devastation, which is very good. It puts you back into Metamorphosis, very nice, and also to your Fiery Brand, which is also very good. It's what your build relies upon, so it's bad because it's a nerf, but at the same time you needed to know, you needed to see that this was gonna get nerfed. So at the very least, the nerf that's coming, it's still opening up some interesting possibilities to your playstyle, at least, if you want to see the glass half full for Vengeance. So, these were the three classes that received some focus with these tier set changes, planned changes or already implemented changes for 9.2. We will eventually get more of them as we go by, but it was interesting as usual to see this higher clarity and transparency and willingness to share the thought process with the player base about these changes for the upcoming patch. It's a welcome addition to the development cycle. I welcome it. Now, to finish the video, we have a couple of additions to point out to everyone. Number one, it has just gotten hotfixed into the game, so it's worth mentioning, is the Incense of Infinity, sold by Odara in Oribos, next to the Flight Master. This is going to be the item that is going to allow you to set all of your conduits to 200 item level. I've already seen complaints about people, of course. As soon as they are given the ability to get all of the conduits to 200 item level, the complaint is, why not 213? Why not 226? This is still too low. Well, you know, when you get a max level character, fresh max level character, you still get this horrible sight of your entire list of conduits at 145 or some shit item level. Half of the conduits are still missing on top of that. So this is not made for someone who is 225 item level and is trying to get the first Mythic Plus keys in and still has some 187 or 200 item level conduits. This is made for fresh character. This is made for newly leveled characters very far back in the progression to allow them to give them a jump start, not for you to bridge the gap from 200 to 226. That is still seen at the very least as current gameplay. 226 conduits drop from normal raid in Sanctum of Domination. They can't have an item, a brand new item giving you all of the item level of something you can currently loot from normal raid Sanctum of Domination. So this is still good for alts, this is still good for fresh new characters to just bridge this annoying gap of very low and very under-leveled conduits. So this first change was something that was touched on by the council. You know, the thing you forgot about, the community council introduced by Blizzard. Some of the things that they have talked about, Blizzard has gone in to actually answer, and in some cases to actually implement some changes. One of the changes was the discussion about the PvP grind needed to get your gear from PvP. So Blizzard answered, and in the answer they talked about the cycle of PvP since Legion to now, how things have changed, blah blah blah. The important thing was the fact that they pointed out that we have heard loud and clear that players think it takes too long to gear up for PvP. As far as we can see, it looks like the best way for us to address this concern immediately would be to add a significant honor increase, 40%, to the Spoils of War buff that is currently in place. So we are looking to do that soon. So this is the first planned change, one of the first implementation sparked from a discussion in the community council. Of course, people are still complaining and pointing out that a 40% buff to this is still going to be too too little, too small when it comes to PvP grinding. It's honestly a matter of perspective. You know, you need roughly 113,000 honor to upgrade all of your conquest gear to rank 7, assuming you were basically naked before this. If you ignore the first win of the day bonuses for twos and skirmishes, which is basically extra and free, that would leave you in the worst case scenario with some 750 wins over the season needed before this change. And after this change, about 430 wins needed to get your max gear. And this doesn't even take into account the fact that you might have gotten decent gear from other sources. This is 430 wins needed if you basically had nothing but green leveling gear before. You might have gotten gear from Mythic Plus, which would be decent in PvP, perhaps pieces with versatility that were good. Perhaps you could have gotten gear from your Great Vault as well, which could be very good. You could have gotten gear from raiding, many other sources. So this is 430 wins needed, assuming you need every single piece of gear. For every piece of gear you already have and don't need, it's gonna cut some 30 extra wins needed for you to get your max gear. So as I said, it's still a matter of perspective. Perhaps you thought 750 wins needed before were too much, and you still think 430 wins needed now after this buff are still too much. So that might still be a matter of perspective. At the very least, in the end, it is still a buff. It is still made easier compared to what it was before. I won't get too much into detail because I have no idea how long it actually takes for you to gear up from PvP, so I'm gonna leave that impression to players who actually did the grind and actually spent the time getting the gear. But at the very least, I can say that it's good. At the very least, it's nice to see that they are interacting with the community council and planning some changes based on some concerns voiced by the player base. Besides this, for now, we can stop here. This was all there was for today, for Friday, at the cusp of the start of the weekend. I will leave you to whatever you were planning to do before. As usual, thank you guys for watching the video. If you want to continue supporting this channel or start right now, no judgments, you can like the video as commanded by the YouTube algorithm. You can also leave a comment down below, as well as subscribing to the channel. But for today only is for people who have interacted with the PvP system at least once in the past 2 years. So, see you guys soon, and in the meantime, see you on the PTR in a few hours to test Heroic Undoing, guys.